The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here. Rolling out of the truck stop a little later than lately, anyway. Gave him a little air horn on the way out. Blocking everything. Old EBT was just live. Our boy, enslaved by truth. Boy, he was spurging and spiraling. And there's no joy to be taken in these moments. But sounding like Benton from 5 years ago. Sounding like Alex Jones from 15 years ago. I guess the bloom's finally off the Trump rose. Boy, howdy. We're in New Jersey on some convoluted roads here. I'm supposed to make a left here? What is this? Oh, I'm supposed to go straight across. This is insane. See, Southerners, you couldn't have this in Arkansas. People wouldn't even be able to figure this out. It's one of them, they won't let you make a left turn in most of New Jersey. So you gotta do some crazy bullshit. So bear with me. Same problem when we get to the receiver in a little over an hour, maybe longer. Of course, I'm on the verge of quitting for the third time. And the only thing I'm going to say is, hey, man, third time's a charm. Let's just go ahead and call it. Because, you know, if you try to talk me out of it into staying, I'll probably stay. I like living in a truck. And I like money. Oh, and I wasted 10 minutes, lost my seal, dropped the seal. Since we're doing, we're contracting for a full truck, but then we're not sealing the trailer. And we're putting more freight on. I had the seal in my pocket. I guess it fell out when I went for my flashlight. But yeah, so Enslaved by Truth, he might still be live over on OOE channel. I forget the username, outlining our enslavement. Drew's not on with him but, right now. He seems pretty fed up with the government. He even got to the stop paying your taxes, which I'm not legally allowed to advise anybody not to pay. That's a crime, or it could be construed as one. It's funny, EBT was going off about what's happening with the ICE and the warrantless this and rounding people up that, and I'm like, I'm posting in his comments. It's like, oh, you mean all that stuff that W and Dick Cheney put into the Patriot Act and Republicans? Is that what you mean? And we see the inherent foolishness and folly of falling into any sort of political ideology. There's only one way for the people, if they somehow became united, which is not possible. But let's just, in a thought experiment, the only way is they got to take back the purse strings. And the only way to do that is don't pay taxes, which means W-2 workers are going to have to stop going to work. Yep. 1099, until the government figures out some way to cut them off or threaten their employer, they got to just stop paying. And none of that's ever going to happen. But that's all required to take back the purse strings. You can't appeal to the thing that has seized, power of attorney over the government purse strings. You can't go to it and say, hey, how about you do what we're asking? That's not how it works. And we're already in the shit. It's going to be about 59 miles of traffic, I reckon. And see, this is my actual job, and this is the basis of a lot of my grievances with the truck driving and the company is, it's like, my actual job, that's enough. I don't need all this other bullshit put on top of it. And then what about, I'm pretty sure we're overdue for a PM. Is that my job? Am I the maintenance department too? So I'm supposed to work 14 hours a day and figure out when to get the oil changed. What's up, mental pancakes? And he tipped his bit when he was talking about white people, and he even got into the white people don't want to work. Meanwhile, and it's not even that they don't want to, such as when I went into truck driving in 2018, there was a big hiring push, especially with the mega carriers. And I was in a class of about 80 students, and it was me and like 3 other white guys. None of them were young. There wasn't a single. Actually, that's not true. We had one 20-something, and he washed out and didn't make it. You didn't have any, boy next door, not a single one. And most white guys can't pass a background check or a drug test, especially not a hair follicle. So they know not to even try. But now they can pass the initial drug screen, but what about the rando? But anyway, he's talking about picking watermelons. If white people picked watermelons, the next thing you know, and it wouldn't get unionized. The fact is that's probably part of the reason for the most. I'm sure white people pick watermelons to some extent, but where most of the stuff that ends up in the grocery stores, a lot of it comes from other countries, of course. But either way, apparently there's tariffs on a lot of that now. But who knows? I don't know what's happening. But it's funny because the next thing you know, he's going off about unions and $45 an hour to pick watermelons. And see, here's what it is to be an American. An American would rather see a never-ending series of corporate profits, and an American would rather see hedge funds owning much of the farmland in America, and Americans would rather see corporate profits are now growing at double the rate of the rest of the economy based on GDP. See, that's all preferable to your neighbor making $45 an hour, a living wage, to pick watermelons. Let's face it, we're all too fancy. We're all too sophisticated. to live in subdivisions and be a diesel mechanic, master certified technician at maybe $60 an hour with plenty of overtime. And then, a neighbor nearby is, raising a family on a single wage, and he makes 45 an hour picking watermelons. Nobody wants to live in a neighborhood with a watermelon picker. So this idea of, we'll just have Americans do all the jobs. Well, where are they going to live? Not next to you. Not if you make a decent amount of money and you got a couple of girls and you got a wife driving around in a Tahoe and all of this. You think they want to live next door to some watermelon picker, regardless of the skin color? I mean, come on. Society's based on class warfare, is it not? And so this is, now we see, and I got a little fueled up listening to this, but, now we see why Benton mostly avoids these topics. I do like to talk about economics here and there because I know a little bit about it. It's funny because he was going through, what faces America economically, and he's like, "Oh, this is unprecedented," and I'm like, "No, Japan went through most of this already. Actually, not quite the level of consumer spending, but that's mostly cultural from what I see." But and he actually, I don't know if he's been listening to me or not. I don't want to take credit, but capping if they cap the interest rate on credit cards and these predatory loans for cars and such, that your average American is just not going to have access to consumer credit that they're literally been living on for however many years. Meanwhile, everybody loves to romanticize the 80s and the 90s. The typical American in 1983 effectively had no access to consumer credit. I repeat, no access to consumer credit. It wasn't a thing. Whoever you knew that had what today would be like a $40,000 office job, they did not have any credit cards. A bookkeeper, an accountant, but like an entry-level accountant. And also in 1983, there was way less entry-level positions. That's part of the reason why the job market was what it was. And people have forgotten the worst job market in modern memory was 1983. But then everything wasn't a big job yet. Now you got, a bad job market, so-called, and most jobs are entry-level $16 an hour, regardless of what the person's asked to do. And when I hit 93 hours in a week in 7 days, when I get to 93 hours worked, that's my threshold for Illinois state minimum wage of $15 an hour doing long haul trucking. It's like, oh, he makes $1,800 a week. That sounds like a lot. Well, I'd say almost never do I not come pretty close to 93 hours worked every week. What's 7 divided by 93 is like 13.3 or something, if I remember correctly. And, none of this is to blame anybody. And he said he still loves Chalk Body Outline, but that Chalk Body's all in on this immigration and the ICE raids and breed whitey breed. The modern version of breed whitey breed is Chad knocks up 20 single moms, the government raises the babies, and if Chad thinks he's going to work a job, they garnish his wages and or put him in jail for non-payment of child support. Right. Unless he's really got mouth game and he keeps all them broads from filing on him. which some of them do have it like that. Or he just keeps it moving and never gets pinned down. That's really more Pookie type activities, actually, getting pinned down to a bunch of child support. And these white women are all feminists. They didn't choose feminism. What I mean is feminism pervades all aspects of society. Therefore, you know, they're on that all intercourse is rape type shit in a way. And it's like, they're going to do everything possible to prevent a pregnancy. But meanwhile, you've always had and you continue to have a ton of single mothers. But, when I was a youngin', that was a little more associated with white folks and then black ladies as single moms. Now it's just more or less normal. Conservatives, how many conservative women, young women, are shacking up, never been married, got babies? See, well, that's not a conservative. Conservatives don't behave that way. And then EBT, I guess, I don't know if he was drunk or what. He said something about he got $250,000 in equity out of some of his properties. This is my memory of what he said. And so what would that represent? According to the Bible and Christianity as perpetuated, again, all religion is man-made and therefore corrupt and demonic. But I'm talking about what he claims to believe in. Well, wouldn't that represent Jesus's parable of the talents? So in that 250,000, God is entrusting him with a certain amount of money, and isn't he supposed to spin it up into something else according to no, I don't. That's not how I interpret that parable, but I have a different interpretation. And then he's like, and what did I do with the money? And he's talking about, basically it more or less it got spent. I think he didn't quite describe it that way, but that's what it sounded like in the final analysis, maybe just through charging things. So the best way I see if somebody wants to romanticize 1983 is get rid of your credit cards. And if people think they're going to have, any say in their government, they have to organize and they have to take back the purse strings. And, all this Doge and all this welfare reform, which Clinton passed federal welfare reform, lest we forget the Democrat, but they love to go the other way. W tried to pass amnesty for so-called illegal immigrants, but it failed. Surprise, surprise. And what was I saying? W, blah, blah, blah. Shit, I forgot. I got lost in my own sauce. I got to calm down anyway. And see, this stuff really isn't even discussable. I couldn't even hardly get ready for my shift here because I kept having to type stuff into his chat. Finally, I just had to turn it off or I wasn't going to be able to start my day. And now I have to talk about all of this while keeping my breathing correct, calm, cool, and centered and collected. And I ain't even mad about it. It's some of this stuff. And I know I've been guilty of this in the past, a certain tone of voice, a certain, energy when I talk about topics. And again, with the increasingly sensitive internal space that I'm in tune with, just listening to somebody with anger in their voice or vitriol, or, there's an effect on the individual. And it's up to me to mitigate and manage that in real time. It'll be interesting once they try to dispatch me today. because I'm about to start turning shit down. And they can say whatever they want. Technically, for me to be 1099, I have to. They can't make me accept the load contractually. Now, I would rather not turn load bits down, which means they got to know how to dispatch me, which is part of me smiting them a little bit over this West Virginia run. Because the dispatcher saw that if I didn't get that West Virginia load off on Monday, that his chance of salvaging my work week was pretty much shot. And he, he wasn't even really trying to sweet talk me. He was just saying what was going to happen. I said, man, I don't care. Don't care. I just spent 45 minutes having a local lead me back to civilization off of a goat path in a holler in West Virginia that y'all sent me to. But it's getting dangerous up ahead. And while he's trying to talk to me about all this, and I know I'm sort of mixing two different discourses, but I'm also like, because he said, well, we're going to lose a day or we're going to lose 2 days. I said, what if I had rolled down into the holler to my death? What would have been lost then? Because that's what I just went through. And I'm telling you, I'm done for the day. And I don't care what you say because my nerves are shot. So he kept going back to what was going to be the repercussions, and not as a threat. I said, I don't care, man. Don't care. And then he goes to the subtle threats. Oh, well, I'm going to have to tell the owner this and that. I said, cover your ass, partner. CYA, buddy. Because I'm the white nigger coolie in the truck. This is the part I didn't say. Nobody wants to live in a big rig and drive long haul 7 days a week. Is you crazy? So at least till they regain my trust, I'm scrutinizing every load they send me before I roll to the pickup. Sometimes I can just take a look at it and tell it's good to go, but it's time to remind them a little bit who old Benton is, not in an egoic way. Not that that's even a thing, but so what I like to do is cut through the bullshit of all this complaint. And look, it's enjoyable to kind of go through the problems, but it's funny because EBT goes, I'm not a doomer, while everything I've just heard him say for 20 minutes was all doomerism. And right after he said, I'm not a doomer, he said, you're not surviving this anyway. I said, that's literal. That's the definition of doomer. You're not going to survive as a doomer. What are you doing? So this stream, so that supposes that this is a thing that can be survived. See, that's a false premise until proven otherwise. See, it's a consensus notion. When the individual was seemingly birthed into the realm and then, indoctrinated and taught by the parents and society and, coached up into, performing all of these societal functions. That's the consensus. It's a layer of consensus that says, oh, well, you know, this is all survivable through your intelligence and the sweat of your brow and, living below your means and all of this. And it shows the mind control, and it shows what's built into the psyche, Moloch's psyche. Because EBT, I mean, like it or not, I don't think he's listening. Hell, if he was be smart, he'd be simulcasting this. And see, the criticism is to criticize oneself. So what we see is critiques of the so-called other, which is, in the case of the so-called truth community, mostly Biden's poopy diaper and Democrats. Oh, focus on that and critique and criticize that and blame that. And so one level above that is to say, well, that's futile because they're a bunch of commies. They have Saul Alinsky rules for radicals. They laugh in your face if you think you're going to shame them. They own shame. You can't shame a group of people who is proud of their shame. Because remember, Republicans hide theirs. So-called conservatives hide theirs. Right. Biden's poopy diaper puts it on Front Street. In fact, that's why it's even called Biden's poopy diaper, because it's the idea that he enjoys it on some level and that maybe somebody changes him. But then your actual Democratic lefty types, see, that's all through the kink community. So if that's not a person's particular kink, that's neither here nor there, diaper play or whatever. On the right, so-called right, it's all repressed. So it's like everybody's into diaper play because nobody's allowed to be into anything that's not stereotypical nuclear family, right? With some loosening over time, like sex between a man and a woman, which you remember when it was only ever spoken of in the context of marriage or it was a scandal. See, that's worn off. So that proves that it's not conservatism. If it was conservatism and I was a youth, and mostly when intercourse between a man and a woman was almost always framed as they're either married or they're going to get married at some point in the future, perhaps, then it was scandalous and forbidden and taboo. Not today. Now today you got 25-year-old women declaring themselves good, God-fearing, Jesus-loving Christians, and it's like, okay, where's your husband that you submit to? Because that's what the religion says. Now, I don't say that. That's what the religion says. Whatever church you go to, unless it's a new one, historically, it's God, man, woman, child. Right. So why are there 25-year-olds who think they're Orthodox Christians? I don't know, man. Go to the Orthodox countries. Are there unwed 25-year-olds that have a standing in society as good Christian women, or are they every single one of them married and submitted to a husband? Right. Oh, but it's America, so it's a melting pot and it's an amalgamation. How's that working out? Seems like old Benton maybe outsmarted the game by not falling for it in the first place. Let me shoot my own one a little bit. And see, what good is a big brain if the individual doesn't actually critically use it independently of whatever their family thinks, whatever their workplace thinks, whatever their social groups think. It's my job to develop and hone my critical thinking skills and my so-called intellect to the highest degree possible, and then to use it independently. That's my job. See? I can't farm that out to anybody. Now, there's certainly many mechanisms outside of me that will fill the void if I leave a void. See? And so really a lot of what EBT's talking about and seemingly angry about is he left a void because of his own refusal to critically think and to grab his nuts and just say, well, this is the way I see it. And if it don't jibe with what y'all think, who the fuck is you? See, I was raised that way, not necessarily with respect to everything. This is how we live. And my daddy, his rebellion was he became a Jehovah's Witness and his family just had to deal with it. It's like, well, any of us can just say, this is what I'm doing. I'm free. And if y'all don't like it, fuck you. And if they choose to not accept him, it kind of reflects more on them than on him. See, because hypothetically, he's raising his children with proper principles. See, he picked a rebellion that checked all the boxes so that he could still be seen as responsible. And it's all very self-serving, of course. Off the charts healing of the large intestine, by the way. The dreams get even more fantastical. I'm pretty sure I had full-on DMT, increase in DMT in my bloodstream based on some of the visuals I was seeing in my like half waking, half sleeping state. Let's see, this is supposed to be my job, this treacherous traffic. But for my experience level, I'm nice. I'm nice in traffic. I was nice in traffic day one trucking. I've only gotten nicer, right? And see, that's what goes unsaid with the company. They know I'm nice. Now, maybe there's other drivers who hauled fucking balls through a winter blast like I did, but that ain't the majority. It's funny because when I finally got offloaded in West Virginia, I hung out a little longer than I had to. I could have split right away, and I heard the one guy. And it's funny because you kind of know this guy never looked at me, so I never got the greeting because I like to greet people. He worked at the facility there. It's all white guys, other than some of the women and chick-like dudes in the office, of course. But I heard him say something to his coworker about he better get moving, because the snow's coming. Shit, I passed everybody north of Abilene, Texas, in the 4 lanes and a turning lane through city driving, and you couldn't see a line on the road, and everybody was driving like bozos. I passed there, so my only thing I could do was hammer down and pass everybody, and passed rig after rig after rig who passed on the ice, who thought they could pass on the iced over fast lane. And next thing you know, they were all wrapped up in the separator between the, in the median on that fence that they have in a lot of places. And several times I hit that motherfucker and had to back off. And twice I had to slow down and then just romp the power and pull that bitch out of what we call, anybody know what understeer is? It's where you think you're going to turn, but you keep going in the direction, like to the outside. So that's how they end up in the median most of the time in snow. Not always. They understeer, and they don't. It's an understeer skid, and they don't know how to get out of it because only power is going to get the rig out of that. If you're running out of space, you can't get out of that unless you have enough real estate and there's nothing around you. And you can just get off the power and sort of wait it out and steer your way out of it. Other than that, you've got to hammer down, because what happens in a rear-wheel drive vehicle, and I'm talking about a tractor, when you romp on the power, what does that create? Oversteer. So what better way to correct a condition of understeer than to inject oversteer? And Benton just knows how to do all of this. Benton probably could have been a race car driver, most likely. That's fine. It doesn't matter. But I certainly would have had a lot of those skills in my youth. It don't make no matter. I don't care. How did Benton put his, step up onto the curb where the fuel light, where the fuel pump is? It's elevated. It's on a curb, and stepped at 50. I'm spry enough to pull my knee straight up and over the def hose. And then when I came in a hurry, shouldn't have been in a hurry, put my heel down, which immediately lost all traction. Right? How the hell did I keep from busting my ass? Because I'm nice. I got cat-like reflexes, world-class footwork, and I'm an athlete, motherfucker. I was born with it. And I know your typical human hears all of that and they're jealous. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Mine came along with a defective personality, grew up in a mind control cult, and, most likely undiagnosed fake autism. So, I mean, it ain't no free lunch. Oh, and I'm undersized overall, right? Unlike the majority of my family on my dad's side. I got into watching some Richie Incognito, the offensive guard, who was known as like a crazy tough guy in college and supposedly like went and beat up a whole frat. Bro, that's my uncles. My uncles, I'm not saying they beat up Richie, well, they would because there was two of them. There's only one Richie Incognito, and I'm sure they wouldn't have given a fuck about going 2-on-1. But that's I'm genetically closer to gigantic, powerful, fast Richie Incognito than I am to the rest of you. That's just what it is. I didn't choose that. That I know of. And it's not bragging. It's just like, yeah, this is a fact. Let's, put 10 random truck drivers. Look, some of them are going to the hospital. Some of them's never driving a truck again. Some of them's breaking a femur. Some of them's cracking their head open and dying. You put 100 people through what me almost slipping, statistically, 1 out of that 100 is probably dead and cracking their head open against the curb. Like, no bullshit. If I didn't save it, I'm going straight back. And it's just like, well, can I tuck my head quick enough to not maybe kill myself here? And to know that in the moment, that's how I didn't die when I broke my heel. Dropped from the bucket of a loader from 13 feet up on the concrete. It took every bit of them reflexes and athletic ability to get my feet underneath me to be able to break a heel. I easily could have landed on my fucking side of my head and died. Easily. And that company knew it. They're smart enough to do that math. I'm sure people have died on the job. How many deaths have they had in the history of that company? More than one, I'm sure. And the reality is, if I was 30 and it was, well, white people got to pick fucking cabbage to survive, guess who's going to be out there picking cabbage? You think I wouldn't be out there picking cabbage? You're crazy. Johnny Cash's parents were fucking sharecroppers in Arkansas, cotton picking sharecroppers in Arkansas. Another reason I love being from the South, because these commies want to say, oh, well, the whites, you had owning slaves and all this. Look, it's more likely that I had cotton pickers in my family than I had people who had indentured servants. My grandma, who's still alive and kicking, dug a well for her family at age 11, and she had yet to own her own pair of shoes. Think about that. She's still here amongst us. And people are whining and crying about the idea that this is the worst. If this ain't even close to the worst conditions in American history, are y'all out of your minds? This ain't nothing. Now, I'm not saying in grin and bear it. I'm saying this ain't shit. Now, psychologically, it's way worse. It's definitely, I'd say it's probably never been worse psychologically and from the perspective of mental health. But anybody can quit spending money except on the bare necessities and go work for whatever they'll get paid. Anybody can do that if they're able, right? I wouldn't wish a job on my worst enemy. I'm just saying, oh, we got to feed our families. Meanwhile, motherfuckers are using Klarna to buy burritos like EBT was talking about. It's a backup. Oh, we got a cop on the shoulder. Will I ever get out of this lane is the question. Yeah, they're going to let me back over. Shockingly. You can call them liberals till the cows come home. These New Jersey bozos drive about 10 times better than people in, congested areas of, let's say Oklahoma City or wherever. It's about 10 times better driving. That's more annoying because there's way more traffic. But anyway, apologies for getting off the topic, but I'm having to pay enough attention to the driving that it's hard to stay focused. And, so back to the critical thinking. And so that's a false premise. The idea of, even saying, well, and when he says you're not going to survive, he means one is not going to survive. But why is the royal we not examining the concept of, is this a thing? Society, America, modern living, is this a thing that can be survived? Because how does the story end? You die. At least what the realm perpetuates as so-called air quotes life, breakfast cereal, Mikey likes it. What I am will never know death. So it's like, you will not survive this. Well, that's true in a way. What I am isn't surviving this. What I am is the power over all of this. What I am is the source. It's the creative force that this is all predicated upon. See, it's the engine. Am I in the wrong lanes here? What's going on? Oh, no, I'm not. Never mind. Right, 2 lanes. And boy, I'm going through some crazy ass detox. My head is fucking pounding right about now. Stomach hurts. And I don't have a lot of stomach pain historically, but where is the transverse colon located? It's if you think your tummy hurts, that's as far as I know, I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice. That's where your transverse colon is. Maybe what, right below the belly button? I think. I mean, now not everybody has the same proportions, but more or less, I think that's correct. So, ideology is never not a trap. Any ideology, left wing, Democrat, right wing, conservative, Republican, Christianity, it's always a mistake. It's never not a mistake. In fact, to adhere to an ideology is collectivist. And once you get into collectivism, you might as well just go ahead and be a commie at that point. You're not going to be a collectivist and be all concerned with keeping, your own internal house in order. And if America is even real, and it's not until proven otherwise. See, here's a thought experiment, is to say, well, at a consensus level, seemingly I was birthed into America as a nation, and all of these, systems and all of these things are seemingly happening. And then, the individual is expected to take for granted that it all has validity because it's happening, which is a bunch of nonsense. That's like I can go watch a play. It doesn't mean that that's what's now entirely real, Why? Because it seems to be happening in front of me. The Truman Show, from the perspective of Truman, yet all seemed quite real. Of course, the waking dream, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again was there, was it not? But anyway, if people don't like what the government does, there's only one thing they can do, because the government cannot do anything that power and money don't force it to do, and there are no exceptions to that. Now, it can do what's in its own best interest, and it can do that in ways that seem to serve the populace. That's called deception and sleight of hand. If the people think they're going to be, because the people have no involvement in the affairs of the government, none whatsoever. I'm talking about the masses of people in this country. They have no say. Yeah, that people vote, and we see what good does that do, but it's to not allow the government to control the money. And I don't mean to abolish, certain, like the Federal Reserve. I'm talking about, do not give them your money. And I'm not calling for this. I'm saying, if the people say, well, wait a minute, government, you're not doing what we would want you to do with the money, therefore we're not going to give you the money. That's it. That's the only thing that can occur. Anything short of that is pointless and a waste of time, effort, and resources. Inarguably, because that's the only action that the people could take if they did organize, and they're not going to, because it's not possible and the system knows it. But if enough individuals reformed themselves, mind, body, and spirit within themselves, and then were capable of joining up with other people in a kumbaya to then choose not to work W-2 jobs and to choose not to continue to operate a business and not pay taxes, or in my case, to work as a contractor and to just simply not pay the taxes. Well, the system is I send the taxes. Well, okay, I'm not going to send the taxes. What now? Oh, fear, fear, fear. Well, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. Okay. Now what? What I am can't fear the repercussions. So what do we do now? Because what did Jesus tell the rich man when the rich man showed up and said, basically, how do I do what you're doing? It's more or less what he's asking. I want to join. I want to do what you're doing. What did Jesus say? Sell everything you own, give the proceeds to this here movement, whatever that is, and follow me. And what did the rich man do? He went bug-eyed and ran away. So because his entire identity is based on his wealth. So within the context of being a wealthy person, he's really asking Jesus, how do I, as a rich man, do what you're doing? And Jesus says, okay, step one is don't be a rich man anymore. Give up all your worldly belongings, right? Slow merge me harder. Lincoln Tunnel, right lane only. You know we're in the shit now. Goddamn Lincoln Tunnel signs. George Washington Bridge. I don't think we're going there. I don't think we're going that far. Starting to get a little worried now. I'm not supposed to cross that bridge. So I think my exit is before we get to that. I'm almost certain. But anyway, here to come slow merging. 49-mile-an-hour slow merge. Look at them. The cops are up ahead. Why are you blocking me in, bitch? Let's block in the big rigs. Because the fact is, if somebody sees what the government is doing and doesn't like it and continues to support it with their blood, sweat, tears, labor, and tax money, they don't actually oppose whatever the government may be doing. In fact, by definition, they support it. That's the definition of the word support. So I was very critical of people in Los Angeles wanting to march around and have a bunch of signs and slogans about ICE. And I'm just like, hey, you pay for ICE. How does ICE get funded? And I'm in Echo Park giving a speech, and the small businesses who are hurting in the first place, now they're going to want to blame me as a scapegoat and try to move me along. And I'm like, hey, this business supports ICE. I understand you got a sign in the window. You're paying taxes. You're paying for ICE. How you going to come out here and tell me to be quiet? And there's nothing they can say. And I'm pointing at the graffiti. Yeah, ICE out of LA. Meanwhile, everybody go to work today and pay for ICE. And then I'm like, I can go drive a big rig anytime I want. Oh, that's right. But the conditions are so bad. And I know my only power is I'm either willing to accept subpar conditions or not work. That's it. That's all I can do. Like with this company, my only choice is to accept whatever they're subjecting me to or quit. That's all I can't do anything else. I don't have an advocate or a representation. See, that's proof that the worker and the commoner has simply no involvement in the way things go, other than being expected to show up and do the job. Right. And, I'm just, at this point, I'm just going to have to tell the owner of the company if I do quit again. It's like, or if we just get into it over something, it's like, listen, man, I think a lot of you personally, but you chose the wrong business to devote yourself to. I don't know what to tell you. This is the wrong business. You should have went into something else. You thought you saw an opportunity and you were wrong. It happens, but this ain't it, buddy. Meanwhile, he's hardworking and talented and intelligent enough to probably make a go of it, but he's really having to extend himself. And it's like, listen, you're going to let your dispatcher on, you're going to let your dispatch, on commission send me onto a goat path in a holler in West Virginia. I'm probably gonna, and then the next day I'm almost getting the rig stuck trying to deliver at a warehouse. What y'all think is some big spacious warehouse with plenty of room to maneuver. Yeah, except there's a foot of snow on the ground and ice. And I'm probably gonna call and wake you up at 6 a.m. because he told me, oh, I'm 24/7. If you need anything, call. Okay, I need to not be out here getting stuck the day after, getting sent down a goat path in a West Virginia holler. And why am I out here almost getting stuck in a foot of snow? I don't see any foreigners out here almost getting stuck in a foot of snow. Why is it white nigger Cooley Benton? And your average person's just a total bozo. I mean, let's just call it what it is. They're complete bozos. You can't get out here and drive a car. You can't actually just observe people. 65% of them at a minimum are absolute bozos, but extremely sophisticated at saving face and seeming like functional humans. And here's how I know they're not functional humans. We could pluck any of that 65% out of whatever environment they're in and whatever environment they're used to, and just put them in an environment they're not familiar with, and then just have them perform tasks. And you'll quickly see, oh, these are bozos. They can't do anything. Because especially if there's no other humans to watch and mimic. Because most of these people default to, they watch what the other people do. And so Benton, with his neurodivergence and his defective personality, here I am, the first one to the self-checkout, in the morning at Walmart. And surprise, surprise, here comes some old Mexican man, shows up at the exact same time. And so I hesitate to perfectly scan his stuff while I'm scanning my stuff. And I hesitate and just kind of look at him, and he's waiting for me to scan my item, and then he's going to scan his item. because he's lived his entire life where he communally does everything with other people. And I'm not saying that's even right or wrong or good or bad. I'm saying if these people need to behave independently, they can't. They can't do it. So how in the world am I going to be in a society where 65% of the populace is functionally below my capabilities and I'm no freaking genius? What's untenable? Current mood untenable. And I know this, right? And it's not, oh, Benton. Well, it is the superiority, but it's actually, I'm a different thing than they are. See? Now, for some insane reason, I didn't know how to use self-checkout. I would probably just ignore I might try to observe the person who's checking out, but I would probably just ask for help. Let's say if somebody's scared of driving, they shouldn't have a license. They're scared of driving, or they might be drunk. One of the two. It's like, yeah, buddy, I'm taking the exit up here. I'm not passing you to maybe not be able to get over at my exit. Oh, yeah, they're drunk as fuck, or they're super distracted. I'm both drunk as fuck. Again, as a disciplined person with control of himself, oh, he's going to cause a wreck. All I can do is back off and, not be anywhere near their crash if it happens. It takes discipline because the emotions is, oh, this person's holding me back, and they'll start crowding, and the next thing you know, they're involved in the wreck. And that's part of my value to the company is I had to slow down. I spotted them immediately and slowed down to 30 motherfucking 5 and never got anywhere near them. I don't know where the fuck I'm going. I'm dependent on the GPS and everything. I'm not local. I'm an over the road truck driver. Now 2 people who don't know what's going on and easily could have passed me, but they want to look at their phone, so they're tucked in behind me. They're just going to follow me through a series of hairpin switchback, crazy New Jersey rigmarole. Because even though they might be in a hurry, they don't know what's happening. See? And so now they might become frustrated by being stuck behind a big rig. Because remember, everybody hates big rigs, but it's like, yo, your fault. The road's designed for y'all to spot my slow speed and go the fuck around. And people used to do that. They don't do that anymore. The smartphone has completely changed the way people drive. They don't do that anymore. Most of the time, if I'm in city driving and it's 2 lanes in my direction, if I put my signal on to make a right turn, in the old days, whoever was behind me would immediately, if the left lane was clear, they would go around me on the left. Now almost everybody just slows down to a damn near stop so they don't have to get out of their lane. Now, if they're about to make a turn, sure. But it's because they're out there on their phone and they prefer to be on their phone. So they prefer to be on their phone than to do you the courtesy of, fulfilling what used to be the social contract. They would rather look at their phone. But then I'm supposed to be gaslit into going along with some notion of a proper society. It's like, No, that can't be a proper society when people care more about looking at their screen than in doing what they are socially, contractually obligated to do and what they would expect to be done for them in some cases. But when I drive, I recognize, oh, that truck's about to take the same exit as me. There's a decent chance he's going all the same ways I'm going. Let's just pass him. No, they just stay behind me. Now they're going to try to pass when it's going to fuck me all up. See, now they're trying to cut me off because I'm a tractor trailer. See, now they want to get in the mix, and maybe they'll be able to call the injury lawyer. And now they want to get around. It's like, well, too late. Now I needed the lane. Y'all missed your chance. You can't be, yeah, exactly. Flip me off. See, he flipped me off. I didn't do anything wrong. You did something wrong, buddy. You don't know how to drive. You weren't paying attention. And you followed me through all that. But see, in his world, that's never his fault. All right. Ever. See, I'm supposed to trust that if I take the worst of it, he's not going to get in my way and I'm going to be able to get through there and I don't know the road. I'm supposed to just trust him. Meanwhile, I got flipped off and he's within 60 seconds, he's at his workplace. See, so is he angry about what I'm doing or is he just angry? See, which is it? You be mad at yourself, buddy. But he was happy to follow me all the way to his workplace, damn near. And he finally was able to get around me. But in his world, it's like, oh, look at this jerk. Buddy, I don't know the lanes. I just happened to get into the proper lane and he passed me on the right where it was 2 lanes and then the lane he passed me in ended. See, I don't know that ahead of time, so I have to guess and hope I'm in the right lane, in the proper lane. See, I don't really have a choice to do my job effectively because I don't know where the fuck I am or where I'm going. See, because I ain't from here. And this is residential. I'm just in city driving now. And just outside of New York City in New Jersey. But see, I'm the asshole because he can't be the asshole in his world. That's not possible. So therefore, I have to be the asshole from his perspective. Well, how can we have a society if there's assholes, but it's never him? In his mind, nothing can ever happen where he's the asshole. See? And until people internally bootstrap enough to be able to understand everything I'm speaking on, there is no hope. But anyway, I'm almost there. Got to go. Bye.